Anthony Shadid always looked ahead, past the bylines and the deadlines, to a world at peace with itself. That search led him to tell the stories of ordinary people caught in conflict.
I would never call myself a war correspondent, the opposite. I actually cringe at the term. I cover conflict because it's a part of a region that I deeply care about, the Arab world. If conflict is part of that change, a part of that reality of what's going on in the Arab world, then I feel like it's incumbent upon me to try to bring meaning to it.
As a foreign correspondent, his writing explains in a most human way how people are impacted by violence and terrorism. He gives a voice to people who live in the margins of history. Insight that comes only from being there on the ground, not only for the main story, but for the aftermath.
Because it's the day after that people forget about, but really that's when the tragedies come through. That's when the loss is registered. That's when the scale of what has happened is most viscerally felt.
We bear witness that if we're not there, then people aren't going to know what's happening.
What I've always enjoyed coming back to Oklahoma City or coming to the memorial here is that we understand the full impact of what terrorism really represents.
Steve Williams.
Violence can only happen in the context where people are dehumanized, where humanity is lost. For somebody to commit the crime that was committed here in Oklahoma City, people could not be seen as people.
Anthony would have firsthand experience with that in the spring of 2011 while covering the Arab Spring unrest. He and 3 other New York Times journalists were kidnapped by the Libyan military. They were blindfolded and beaten. No stranger to the hostility journalists face there, Anthony and his colleagues would be fortunate to leave North Africa with their lives.
And they finally did force us on our stomach, and I looked up at this soldier, and he said in Arabic, "Shoot them." And then it felt like minutes, but it was probably just a few seconds. Someone else said, "You can't, they're Americans." And they didn't.
After 6 days, they were released, Anthony returning to his family and an emotional homecoming.
It was just so moving to see how people in Oklahoma responded to this ordeal, their prayers. It's something I never expected, and when you worry about not coming home, home becomes a lot more important.
To want to do that is a matter of commitment to tell the story of something that's important in the world.
Fellow Oklahoman Mike Betcher, also a veteran international correspondent, believes Anthony's gift of communication came from a simple Oklahoma trait.
This is what was the power of Anthony Shadid, and it was rooted in the state of Oklahoma and the sensibilities we have here, because he could talk to people. He could relate to people. Unless you can really go write the story in a way that connects with the rest of America, then it means nothing. He could do both.
Whether in the Middle East or Middle America, he identified with ordinary people, continuing to write what needed to be written, not counting the shots fired, but the lives changed.
It feels like you're doing important work. It is in the end about people. Always keeping people at the center of those stories. As long as we keep that focus on that kind of shared humanity, those shared values that we have as people, I think that's in some ways the greatest antidote to terrorism and violence in general.